Welcome to Deer Hunt, Wisconsin. I'm Dan Small. On this year's show, we'll talk to successful hunters, including our videographer Dave Roll, who bagged this nice buck. We'll also talk to military veterans who love deer hunting, look at an alternative weapon some folks would like to see made available for our gun deer season. And as always, we'll provide a region-by-region forecast for this year's gun deer season. All that and more straight ahead on Deer Hunt, Wisconsin.
If you want to have success this deer season, make sure to tune in to Deer Hunt, Wisconsin with Dan Small.
Thanks, Rachel, and congratulations. That looks like quite a pile of venison you got there last year. And last year, my hunting party had some success too up in Bayfield County. Our videographer Dave Roll and my son John each shot a deer on opening weekend. The wind wasn't bad when we started, but once that snow squall came through, the wind really picked up, didn't it?
And I really feel like it's put the deer down now, but this morning, before this storm blew in, the snow was coming down hard, and I saw the shape of this buck walk in right in front of me. I put the gun up and it was kind of haze, but thankfully with the snow on the ground, I was able to make out his shape. He was standing still right where he is, and I was able to get a good shot on him. That copper bullet just put him down like a lightning bolt.
Well, this year we put you in what we call my ladder stand. I killed a deer from that stand last year, pretty much in the same spot, and you had some good luck today.
Yeah, I was really happy with the positioning of the stand. You got a great woods here, and in the midst of that snowstorm, he was like a statue. He was perfectly straddling this shooting lane that's been cut here for so many years. Somewhere between 140, 150 yards, I'm guessing. I haven't paced it off yet, but that's about as long a poke as I want to take through a deep woods at a deer like that, and he gave it to me.
You weren't in the stand very long when we heard you shoot.
Yeah, this morning I, had a deer walk out about 80 yards from me, about half hour after I sat down, and it looked like a doe to me. And I have, doe tags, and was happy to shoot anything. I just got a new chest freezer to fill, so stopped in the middle of the trail, looked down, looked away. I centered it on its chest and squeezed the trigger. And I heard it crash off into the brush, but I didn't hear like a falling crash, so I wasn't sure where it was going to be. So I sat tight. We'd just gotten into place. There were 6 people hunting out here. I didn't want to go romping around, and hadn't really started to snow yet, so I figured we could find it. After about sitting for an hour, it started to really snow, and I thought it might pass, but it started to stick, and I decided it was time to go look for the deer. I walked down to where I shot it. It was about 80 yards from my stand, and looked around. I didn't see any blood, so I started getting nervous. I knew which direction it went, and so I just started walking, and no blood, but there it was. And as I walked up to the deer that I thought was a doe, I saw the antlers sticking out and realized I'd just shot a buck and filled my buck tag.
Deer hunting regulations are now combined with those for small game, waterfowl, and turkey hunting in one booklet. You can pick one up at any licensed vendor or download it from the DNR website. There are just a few changes in this year's regulations. For one, the list of counties closed to baiting and feeding deer changes depending on where new cases of chronic wasting disease are found. Check the DNR website for updates. Also, 37 counties will offer the antlerless-only holiday hunt this year, and the archery and crossbow seasons have been extended to January 31st in 29 counties. You can purchase your license and select your antlerless tags, now called harvest authorizations, online through the Go Wild system or from a licensing agent. With each deer hunting license, you'll receive 1 buck harvest authorization valid in any unit statewide, and 1 or more farmland zone antlerless deer harvest authorizations valid in the deer management unit and land type of your choice. You no longer have to validate a carcass tag in the field or attach it to your deer, but while hunting you must still carry proof that you have a license and the appropriate harvest authorizations for the area you're hunting and the type of deer, buck or antlerless, that you shoot. Proof can be in the form of a Go Wild conservation card, your authenticated Wisconsin driver's license, printed copies of your license and harvest authorizations, or a digital copy of these documents displayed on a smartphone or tablet. All deer taken must be registered by 5 p.m. on the day after the deer is recovered, and you'll need your harvest authorization number to do that. You can register a deer online or by phone, and instructions are printed right on the harvest authorization tag. You may also register a deer at participating walk-in stations. We'll have a link on the Deer Hunt Wisconsin Facebook page, or you can look for one of these deer registration station signs.
Deer Hunt Wisconsin is brought to you by Vortex Optics, exceptional quality and a lifetime warranty. VortexOptics.com. By Wild Eagle Lodge, your Northwoods vacation. WildEagleLodge.com. By Accessibility Wisconsin, outdoors access for all. AccessibilityWI.org. By the Wisconsin Wildlife Federation, working for hunters, anglers, and conservationists. WIWF.org. And by Flow International, FLOEINTL.com.
The Hunting Mentorship Program allows hunters of any age to obtain a license and hunt without first completing a hunter education course. The hunter must stay within arm's reach of a mentor, possess the appropriate hunting license and tags, and comply with all hunting laws. Mentors and mentored hunters are also subject to some other rules outlined in the hunting regulations booklet. Last year, young Sydney Gradle enjoyed her first firearms deer hunt on her family's farm with her mentor, Monica Spaney. This year, Sydney and Monica decided to hunt together with crossbows, which gave them a longer season and offered them both a chance to shoot a deer.
I had a spinal cord injury over 21 years ago. It was chaperoning a middle school ski party. I wound up with being paralyzed basically from here to my toes. To be active, I use an outdoor wheelchair so that I can hunt and fish and be part of nature again. In the process of learning how to hunt, I then became interested in becoming a hunter education instructor, and then I became a hunter mentor. Me being someone that loves this and being able to use an outdoor wheelchair to hunt and mentor, it helps break down those barriers. It makes them actually easier to talk to me. And part of the reason it makes it easier is because they think the chair is cool, so it breaks the ice. I got into mentoring Sydney because she was a youth that was inquisitive. She said, "Hey, I can help you pull weeds." And then I said, "Oh, would you like to go deer hunting sometime or turkey hunting?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'd like to do that."
I like to see their dogs and go to her house, and we go hunting a lot, and so it makes us friends.
Yesterday, Sydney and I went out, and our goal was actually to get a double. We were waiting for 2 bucks or a doe and a buck, but we were girlfriends in power. We wanted to get a double.
I started hunting last year with Monica, and I used the gun last year, and I didn't really care for that, so now this year I'm doing the crossbow, and I like it much better. It doesn't make a loud sound, and it also doesn't kick back as much.
5 minutes before shooting time ended, out comes a deer, and I asked her, would she like to take it? And she was trying to get her scope on it, and she didn't feel comfortable.
I didn't see the buck, and so I told her to shoot it because I didn't have a shot.
He walked right out, broadside, saw the arrow hit, and next thing you know, we heard rumble, 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 thud, and he was down. It was beautiful.
I didn't see it until she shot it because it ran off after she shot it, because it was behind one of the blinds, and so I couldn't see it, and she shot it, and we got it.
And Sydney was just as happy. She was out there looking for the buck, and she was very excited.
I waited, and we heard all these different sounds.
I texted for help. Then both Sydney's father and my husband came with a rope and lights.
My friends like it because some of them are hunters too, They like to see me hunt.
Mentoring and being mentored is not about just the harvest. It's about the entire experience.
Go outside and go hunting with your dad or mom or whoever knows how to hunt in your family, and then you'll do hunting for life.
This year, the 9-day firearms deer season runs from November 19th through the 27th. The muzzleloader season runs for 10 days immediately following the gun season, November 28th through December 7th. And in all MetroZone subunits, the firearm season runs through December 7th. Some MetroZone subunits offer free antlerless harvest authorization, so check the regulations before you hunt. The 4-day statewide December antlerless deer hunt will run from December 8th through the 11th this year. And the antlerless-only holiday hunt runs from December 24th through January 1st in all or part of the 37 farmland zone counties shown on this map. To participate, you or someone in your party must have an unused antlerless harvest authorization for the unit where you're hunting.
Deer Hunt Wisconsin is brought to you by Hunting Works for Wisconsin, huntingworks4wi.com, by Scent Killer Gold, America's top brand. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. By the Big Al Charity Pheasant Hunt through SCI Wisconsin Chapter, bigalcharityhunt.com, and by Huntworth Gear, performance clothing at a price you can afford, huntworthgear.com.
Owning forest property like this in deer country doesn't guarantee that deer will travel through your land or have a reason to stay there. Habitat improvements can go a long way toward making your land attractive to deer. Mike Murphy and Charlie Ray offered my son John and Alex Blaine some advice for attracting and holding deer on John's Bayfield County property where we hunt.
This is an excellent location, guys, for a isolated food plot. We got a large area that's opened up. What I would do here, though, is break this up into 4 separate plots. And the reason for that is when you have a deer coming out of the corner here, traveling this way, and this is one giant food plot, he's going to scan the field, the buck, he's going to look, there's nothing in his interest, so he's just going to keep going right through. Break that food plot up into 4 separate food plots. You can separate it with pine trees, you can use 10 rows of corn, and when that buck comes in from this corner, and he's looking out over that field to see if there's any does out there, he's got to check each and every one. So by that time, when your stand is over there in that corner, he's going to be going all the way through the field right to you.
Right here is one of the spots where we regularly see water actually pool up. You know, oftentimes when there's more water and it's not a drought situation, this will be running in this creek, but there's a bend here, you know, with some rocks, and it's created a hole. Would that standing water not be a great water source for a deer on a food plot or on a bedding area?
It could be. The one thing I guess you'd want to check to make sure is that your water is deep enough that it doesn't become what we call brackish, or where it's actually it'll look like a haze on it. If you get like something like that, then the deer, unless they're absolutely really desperate, will not use it. But what you can use in lieu of that, if that is the case, is actually take a cattle tank and dig a hole in this intermittent stream area and allow that to fill up, and that would be a great water source for it if that becomes brackish.
So you can see here we have a foundation from the original homesteaders, probably back in the 30s, who basically farmed this land. They planted these willow trees, and we've got an apple tree right here. Now, I know deer love apples. This is something I wouldn't want to prune out of here. I think I want to keep this and maybe encourage it to grow.
This is a perfect reason that you'd want to get to know your hunting area, to know that you got an attractant and a great location for a possible stand.
Last deer season, last winter, I set up a pop-up blind on this ridge back by the cedar grove that we just walked through. I came right through here and stumbled upon this fallen birch with these 2 boards on it. And it turns out this is the tree that I shot my first deer from when I was like 13 years old. And it was kind of really strange to realize I'm hunting in the exact same spot that I've been hunting all along, you know, over all these years, or came back to it.
Isn't it amazing how you always come home, right? To your home spot that you're You know,
Yeah.
it was a favorite spot when you were a kid. It's a favorite spot even when you get older, even though you didn't even know it was here.
Exactly. So, hey, Mike, thanks for walking with us today. What do you think?
You guys got a great piece of property here, and what we saw out there today and the assets you got on your property, we're going to utilize those, and with some design changes to the property, we're going to turn this into a whitetail sanctuary.
We have an invasive species problem here.
I see that.
Yeah, we have a buckthorn problem. Can you tell us a little bit about buckthorn?
Yeah, you know a little bit of that because you got me here. This is buckthorn. There's a common and a glossy buckthorn. There's actually two kinds of them, and they're a Eurasian species that's invasive in North America. And what you'll notice on these trees right here is the distinctive black berries on there. And you know, a person would think great bird food there, but actually it's a diuretic for the birds, and that's one of its adaptive strategies. Is presents this appealing fruit, birds and mammals come and eat it, and then they go off and get diarrhea, and now you got a new buckthorn going. It's also a allelopathic plant. That means it kills other plants underneath it. So I've seen situations where it can pretty much completely take over a landscape and dominate it, and it basically locks it up for years, if not decades.
Charlie, I got a question about the seed bank. How long are those seeds viable in the ground after they're deposited?
You get a seed crop, you're looking at 7 years. So that would be a minimum, would be my suggestion for buckthorn. And that's the way land managers and owners should be thinking of it, is that it's a multi-year thing.
Since that seed bank is going to be in the soil, in the woods adjacent to the field, what if we are going to do some selective harvest or some small cutting to create woody browse for deer? Does typically want to be bedding near, as close proximity to their food source as you can.
One thought that I would have on that, you know, you could like switch your strategy, and maybe instead of cutting into the woods, maybe you plant out from the woods to create that little spot where the deer can bed down, and maybe you switch species. Maybe you go for plant cedar with cages to protect them from getting browsed, and then you have the dual purpose of you got your a thermal cover, as well as, you know, a little safe kind of feeling spot for the deer to hang out in.
I was first given your contact from the USDA, you know, forestry representative in the area, and because I got an EQIP grant to manage this, and he said, well, speak to Charlie Ray. Can you tell me a little bit more about that program?
Well, you're lucky to have that funding through the USDA, and it's important for the word to get out on these programs, because a lot of times they're underutilized, and it kind of drives me crazy that there could be money sitting on the table that we could be doing good things for. And people should know that there's usually state programs, county programs, there might even be municipal programs, as well as the USDA programs that can help landowners take care of their land, whether it's invasive species or other things. So reach out to your local USDA office. You can talk to your county staff. Usually counties have a zoning department, a land and water conservation department. Those kind of folks can put people in touch with different funding streams to get this work done.
The future of both conservation and outdoor recreation will depend on the recruitment of a new generation. The Outdoor Heritage Education Center, or OHEC, sponsors an annual event at the McKenzie Center in Poynette that introduces several thousand grade schoolers to a variety of outdoor activities.
When Wisconsin, the Midwest, and most of North America emerged from pandemic restrictions that had canceled events and made people rethink how we spend our precious time on this earth, Ruth Ann Lee, Executive Director of OHEC, questioned if students, parents, chaperones, teachers, volunteers, and sponsors would return to the Midwest Outdoor Heritage Education Expo, or MOHE, to this free outdoor skills field trip, one of the top 3 in the U.S. Well, now we know the answer. Oh, heck yes.
Oh, heck yes! We had a great time!
It's important to get the kids outdoors in the shooting sports and all the outdoor sports, hunting, fishing, clean water, birding, because the kids are our future.
I'm excited to be here just to see the young boys and girls getting activated in outdoor recreation activities. And that inquisitiveness, our hope, translates into being in the outdoors for the rest of their life and their children being activated to be in the outdoors as well. So what people see here today is an investment in young people for the heritage that we have in outdoor recreation. Oh heck yes, it's important for these kids to be in the outdoors.
Archery is an important part of the R3 program because it's an organized national event, the National Archery in the Schools program. What the DNR is hoping to achieve with this program today is to introduce these young kids to archery equipment, many of them for the first time, and spur an interest that we hope continues with them and leads them to become hunters in the future.
Oh heck yes, I love shooting the bows. Oh heck yes, I like the archery.
We know that right now at Mohi, we are training and relying on the next generation to help us preserve, conserve, and to protect our natural resources in the future.
5, 6, 7, 8. A-hunting we will go. A-hunting we will go. Hi-ho, cheerio. A-hunting we will go. A-hunting we will go.
Last winter was rated severe for Iron County, moderate for most of the northern tier counties, and mild for the rest of the state. You should find excellent hunting opportunities in the farmland areas, although deer abundance varies across different habitat types. Deer numbers are lower in the northern counties, but our state's 7 million acres of public land offer a chance to hunt more freely without a lot of competition. Here's a forecast for the upcoming gun deer season provided by DNR biologists from around the state. Northern Wisconsin offers a wide range of deer habitat and hunting opportunities. The moderate winter points to population growth across most of the north, despite heavy snowfall in the Lake Superior counties of Douglas, Bayfield, Ashland, and Iron. This past winter, coupled with a mild winter the previous year, means there should be plenty of 1.5-year-old deer this fall. Vast blocks of public land still attract hunters who prefer a secluded setting and the chance to explore a lot of territory. This region offers a great opportunity for stalking, still hunting, and making small 2- or 3-person drives through a variety of conifer and hardwood cover types. Last winter was mild throughout the Northeast District, and many DNR employees have reported seeing deer frequently this past summer, including a high number of fawns. Habitat types here range from northern hardwoods in Marinette and Oconto counties to flatter agricultural and extensive wetlands of Winnebago, Fond du Lac, and Calumet counties. The central counties provide a mix of farmlands, bottomland hardwoods, and upland forest. Because of this habitat variation, local deer numbers vary dramatically from one square mile to the next. Marinette and Oconto counties are each split into 2 deer management units by the northern forest and central farmland zones. In the forest zone portions of these counties, harvest opportunities should be improving. Deer habitat is more fragmented in the southern and Lake Michigan portions of the district. Some military veterans returned from service and missed the connection they had with their comrades. We joined members of the Fallen Outdoors last season for a deer hunt and heard their story.
The Fallen Outdoors came about in a small outpost in Afghanistan between 4 Afghanistan war veterans in 2009. Wisconsin started in 2015. I was just 2 staff members at that time when we took out 32 veterans. Now here in Wisconsin we're at 964 veterans so far.
I'm an Iraq war veteran. I was going through some troubled times and using the VA system and trying their therapy and things like that for a while. Wasn't working out too well. I ended up hooking up with the Fallen Outdoors Team Wisconsin, and they took me on a hunting trip, and it was the first time in years that I got to be able to hang out with guys like-minded like me who had also been through the same things that I was, and I immediately felt like it was a home and it was doing a lot more for me than the VA was. We hunt, we fish, we do outdoor adventures, we get together with other veterans and active military. We've gone bow fishing on the Mississippi, we've done muzzleloader hunts. One of our great events we've been doing annually here is the pheasant hunt out at Zwicky's, and that's been a great time. We get to bring out a big group of veterans for that, and it's just an all-day event of pheasant shooting, sport clays, food, and we've had a few celebrities out there. We've had Chris Cruzy, the singer, and we've also had the Mountain Man from Duck Dynasty out there, and that's been a great morale booster for all the guys and girls that come out every year. What I try to do is use what I've learned when I started. A veteran's nervous to first come in or apprehensive to come into the group, and I'm aware of that, so I try to make that transition in the beginning a little simpler for them.
You don't have to worry about anything. Nature does everything for you.
It's where I find my peace. It's where I find my adventure. So it's the best of both worlds. Both things that I'm seeking in life I find in the outdoors.
There's definitely a sense of belonging, because when you were in the military, you get to know them. They're your brothers and sisters. When you get out, you lose that sense of camaraderie. This is just one tool to help veterans get out of very dark times.
Coming from a time where I was sitting in my home alone, wondering if I was going to leave it the next day, I would encourage any veteran to do a hunt, do a fishing trip, anything to get out of there and just kind of get your feet into it, see if you like it or not. If you're anything like me, you'll be back out. It is a lifesaver. It was for me.
Most of us are happy to take a buck with a rack like one of these, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you hunt long enough, though, you just might get a shot at a once-in-a-lifetime monster buck. Well, we met a young hunter with most of his hunting career still ahead of him. Take a look at the deer he shot last fall on the youth hunt.
I've only shot deer with my granddad. I've always loved hunting, and it just makes it 20 times better. For me, it's just all the hunting stories and all the fun that we have. We were sitting in my mom's stand, and I looked over at my granddad to talk to him, and I just see this black shadow move across the four-wheeler trail. And I kind of hit him a little hard on the arm. I told him there's something over there.
I don't have a gun. I have binoculars because I'm the mentor. I looked down there and I said, Connor, that's a nice deer. Get ready. So we're watching it run toward us.
I just kept my scope on it the entire time, and it was pretty far, 100 yards.
When he gets within that range, I say, okay, Connor, take your shot.
I just had a trigger finger. I was itching for him to say the words, and as soon as I heard take, I just pulled the trigger. We get out of the stand, and the first thing that probably went through my head was, holy crap. He was bigger than me, probably. He was no small deer at all. He was absolutely massive.
9th overall.
9. So you think all the thousands of hunters that went forward, only 8 of them got a bigger non-typical gun than he did.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there's nobody as young as him in here.
Yeah. And that's why I thought it was important to let people know about this.
Yeah.
I got a phone call from Connor's father asking me to mount a deer for his son that his son shot. And I, of course, said, yeah, bring it on down. But then I started hearing rumors from the local butcher that this deer was pretty impressive. And he's a very humble kid. He's a very nice kid. He's so excited about the deer and getting it back and getting it on his wall, and to happen to such a young kid and such a good kid. This is why I reached out and wanted to make this something special for him. To have something of this caliber, and a 14-year-old boy has shot it, it's a once-in-a-lifetime deer.
Oh, that is cool. That's awesome.
You get very proud. You could be out there when your grandson shot the biggest deer you'll ever shoot. Well, I'm going to have to hunt an awful lot harder to beat that. And I don't have much time left.
It just makes me very proud and know that I'm doing something great with what I like to do.
Thanks to another mild winter and a lower antlerless harvest last year, there should be plenty of deer available in the Southern District this season. The district encompasses a wide range of habitat types, from the wooded ridges and coulees of the Southwest, the extensive mix of woodlands, wetlands, and farmlands of the central counties, the rolling kettle moraine, and the urbanized landscape along Lake Michigan. Deer numbers are stable or increasing in many areas. Most deer in the district are taken on private land, which makes up more than 90% of the habitat here. But you'll also find excellent hunting opportunities on tens of thousands of acres of county, state, and federal land. Last year, the majority of the 1,300 CWD positive deer found through hunter sampling efforts came from the Southern District. Baiting and feeding are now prohibited in all 18 counties of the district. The West Central District offers some of the most productive deer habitat in the United States, with wide valleys, fertile farmland, big rivers, and wooded ridges. Last winter was mild, and there was little or no impact on the deer herd. This region produces some of the highest numbers of trophy bucks in the country every year. Much of the land here is in private ownership, but there are extensive tracts of public land in the Central Forest Zone deer management units. Hunting pressure has declined over the past decade, which should lead to less post-rut deer movement, but a more relaxed hunting experience. Hunters in Jackson and surrounding counties should watch for elk and avoid shooting one by mistake. There are some good photos on the DNR website that show the relative size and physical characteristics of elk and whitetails. Because CWD has been detected in some district counties, baiting and feeding are now banned in most units. Many hunters take their deer to a processor, but some prefer to butcher a deer themselves. Here's Steve Christian of Leroy Meats in Fox Lake to show us the basic cuts.
So here we have a carcass of probably a 1.5-year doe, and I'm going to show you guys how to go about breaking this down without using a meat saw of any sort. You just want to follow that line right down. You have the backbone that goes right down the center of the animal. So if you take your knife right down the backbone, kind of pull it with your thumb and it'll kind of expose the backside, and just keep taking your knife. There's a pelvis bone right here. So you just take your knife and you follow that bone down. And if you're coming towards the cavity, eventually you're going to hit a ball joint. And that ball joint exposes itself right here. So the idea is to get behind that ball joint, and there's a little tendon that holds this into the socket. So you got to pop that tendon, get around that hook, come back down, come back towards that. You can see how that then exposes itself. So you get right in between there, and you just follow that bone straight down. So you want to go right in between that brisket, and you just keep pulling it, and it will start to separate. Follow it nice, right down that length of the animal. You make a slit, and you go ahead and turn your knife, go straight down the backbone, and you go ahead and you spin the animal. So you just want to get your knife right on top of those bones where the tenderloin was laying, slowly moving yourself down the carcass. And you just keep on working down, using your thumb to always pull the meat away from the bone, and the back strap comes out right to the base of the neck. You find the vertebrae on the animal here, and you get the ribs cut up to it, and you go ahead and just put your knife right in the middle of that vertebrae, and then it separates. And go ahead and cut that straight through, a little tug down, and it pops right off. Come right down that vertebrae, and we're going to just follow that straight up. You just keep working your knife right over them, and then you get all that veins and all that glands out of there. If you just get in between the connective tissue, you just pull that off right down to the center of the animal. So if you take your knife and you go straight down from this tip, you will hit the femur bone. And then you just turn your knife, follow that bone all the way down to where that hip joint was. Take your knife straight down, right till you hit that bone again. Take your knife and just dip it in and just follow that bone around. That joint naturally opens up, so you just take your knife real slowly and you'll see how it pulls apart, straight down. So this is the Achilles tendon coming up. You just go ahead and cut that right at the base, and you just go ahead and trim that. And it should really only take about 2 or 3 cuts because that whole chunk of meat can come off at once. It does have a little bit of a cap on it, so if you just take your fingers and you just follow that seam straight back and you just cut it straight down. And then we prefer to butterfly just to make it a little bit larger portion. So when you butterfly, you don't go all the way through initially. You go right down to the table, just letting a real thin piece of meat. Then go ahead and duplicate that same width and go straight through, open it up, and then you have a nice butterfly steak. The fat cap will just pull right off, exposing the silver skin. And I just get my knife started underneath, go ahead and grab it, and then just guide your knife down. So I'm going to go ahead, cut 3/4 of an inch halfway through, then all the way through. So you just take your knife around that fat cap, find that elbow, you go right down to the bone, and you just follow that bone. So here's the clod. If you just follow that across and you start down one side, just like you're pulling the back straps off the back, you just follow that bone, go ahead and turn your knife, and then you can trim that meat right off that bone. Go ahead and do it on the other side. So those are some scrumptious bites ready for the grill.
If you do much driving in rural Wisconsin, especially now in October and November, odds are you'll eventually hit a deer. Unfortunately, I've done it several times, most recently just about a month ago. Ask any deer hunter how many seasons there are, and odds are they'll say 2, archery and firearms. Well, there's a 3rd season, and it's open year-round. It's called roadkill season. I hit this little buck when he was trying to cross from the corn into the woods on the other side of the road. Obviously, he didn't make it. In Wisconsin, you can legally take a deer if you hit it with your vehicle, but you have to register it. And it's a simple procedure. You can actually do it on your cell phone. So drive carefully, try not to hit a deer, but if you do, turn it into venison. This is an FX 35 caliber air gun. It fires a pellet like this or a slug using compressed air. It's a modern version of the air gun Lewis and Clark used back in 1803 on their voyage of discovery to hunt both big and small game. Today in Wisconsin, air guns are legal for hunting small game and predators, but not deer. In about half the states, though, large bore air guns are legal for taking big game as well. We asked Keith Warnke why the state legislature should consider making air guns legal for hunting deer during the gun season.
Because it provides hunters with another option, another opportunity. It can provide younger hunters with a weapon that is going to have less recoil. There's less noise.
Boy, this sure is fun to shoot. Very little noise, no recoil at all. And now that we're on paper, let's see what it'll do with ballistic gelatin.
Like any weapon that you would use for deer hunting, air guns can be very effective within their given range and within their given abilities. And it's up to hunters to know what that is, and it makes it really easy for folks to use them when they know what they're doing and what they're shooting. And we should be clear, we're talking about big bore, large caliber air guns that are fired with a compressed air cartridge that you can get from the dealer or the gun manufacturer, 35 caliber or larger, used in many states to hunt big game.
Well, that's 2 shots into ballistic gel, which simulates flesh. So let's see what kind of penetration we have.
They don't have the ballistics of, say, a 308 or a 30-06, but they do have plenty of foot-pounds of energy to take out a whitetail at 75 yards. We know that. So it's a matter of being a responsible hunter.
Well, that's pretty good penetration. Gosh, about a foot. And these are pellets that don't expand. So if you shoot slugs that expand and have that kind of penetration, there's enough foot-pounds of energy to kill a deer.
We would need to change state law to allow air guns to be used during the gun deer season. Rifles, shotguns with slugs, muzzle loaders, compounds, longbows are all legal during gun deer hunting, so why not add air guns to that too? Half of the states allow the use of air guns for large game hunting already, and it's big bore air guns, so it just seems like it's another plausible opportunity for people to expand their hunting experience in Wisconsin. It seems like a really easy thing to do.
Many outdoors enthusiasts have told us that recent changes in weather trends have impacted the landscape where they hunt or fish, sometimes for the better, but more often for the worst. Here's what some of them have experienced.
Well, a lot of Wisconsin deer hunters are out in the field right now. We're out here on the Mississippi River trying to kill some ducks. One of the things we're struggling with this year is the water issue. We got a lot of drought. Last spring when we were snow goose hunting, we had some severe inclement weather. We actually witnessed a tornado go by while we were snow goose hunting in the pit. And about 5-6 miles away from where I hunt, there was a pretty brutal hailstorm that actually claimed the lives of several thousand snow geese in a cornfield. Climate's important, and you know, naturally in the spring you're going to have inclement weather, but you know, when it starts costing the lives of lots of waterfowl, it starts to make you question things.
Where we hunt up in Erin County, we've noticed that the water levels are down and it's drier, not only all summer but in the winter too. 2 years ago we had only 24 inches of rain, which allowed the deer herd to come back strong, and now it's a problem with overgrazing. The changes in the weather have allowed easier access to the public hunting grounds in the managed forest land, because it's easier to get into the woods and you can get in farther because it's a lot drier. In the future, with the higher deer populations, and if we get a hard winter, you're going to have a lot more winter kill.
So here I am sitting in a duck blind, which is different for me. Usually I should be sitting in a tree stand right now. However, you know, with the weather today and the way that it's fluctuating so much, it's really starting to mess up the way that our deer move. You know, mid-October we had really cold weather, then we had really warm weather. So they were opening up scrapes, then they were shutting down for a little bit. This weather has warmed up so much and got so goofy that these deer are starting to shut down either earlier or later, and then they're doing most of their breeding and most of their chasing and stuff in the middle of the night. So it's really starting to affect the way that deer move and the way that we're hunting deer.
Deer Hunt Wisconsin is brought to you by Scent Killer Gold, America's top brand. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. By MEC Outdoors, clay target machines and metallic and shot shell reloaders. MECOutdoors.com. By the Airgun Sporting Association, promoting sensible airgun hunting regulations. Airgunsporting.org. And by Whitetail Sanctuary Solutions. Let's build your dream whitetail sanctuary. WhitetailSanctuarySolutions.com.
Before you head into the woods this season, be sure to sight in your firearm. You can do that at a number of private and public ranges around the state. And whenever you're handling a firearm, remember to practice the 4 rules of gun safety, summarized by the acronym TAB-K. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Always point the muzzle in a safe direction. Be sure of your target and what's beyond it, and keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot. Chances are deer hunting is an important tradition for you and your family and friends. Wisconsin DNR Secretary Preston Cole has this to say about deer hunters and deer hunting.
Wisconsin has a robust history in deer hunting. The deer camps that happen in corners of the state have been happening for generations. And those generations of hunters need our attention. It's vital to our economy. When folks show up in the North Woods, they recreate. They also go to cities, towns, and villages in the North Woods and throughout Wisconsin to spend money. That continues to drive our economy. So deer hunters are valuable to the state of Wisconsin's economy, but they're also important to managing our deer herd in the state of Wisconsin. And we are so grateful that they're continuing that long family heritage in being in the outdoors and participating in deer hunting in Wisconsin.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Deer Hunt Wisconsin. You'll find links for more information on the Deer Hunt Wisconsin Facebook page, and all the segments from this year's show are posted on our Deer Hunt Wisconsin YouTube channel. I'm Dan Small. Thanks for joining us, and have a safe and successful deer season.